You don't belong here.
Students from your neighborhood do not belong in the honors race. Ms. Helen Cross said it loudly enough for every member of the scholarship committee to hear. Then she reached across the long conference table and snatched the gold transcript from 17-year-old Tessa Brooks's hands. The heavy paper bent between the teacher's fingers. Its embossed school seal caught the cold fluorescent light before Ms. Cross dropped it onto the rejection pile as though it were something contaminated. Tessa remained standing beside the last empty chair. 7 committee members sat around the table. 2 school administrators watched from the wall. Through the glass partition office, employees had stopped pretending not to listen. No one challenged the teacher. Ms. Cross adjusted the silver pin at her collar and gave Tessa a thin, professional smile. Your application has already received more consideration than its record deserves. Tessa's fingers tightened around the strap of her worn backpack. She had come directly from a night shift, changed clothes in a bus station restroom, and crossed Philadelphia before sunrise to attend this emergency meeting. She had been told to bring her official transcript. She had not been told that the grades printed on it were no longer hers. 3 advanced placement courses had been lowered. 2 final marks had changed from A's to C's. A leadership credit had disappeared entirely. The gold transcript that should have carried her into the final scholarship round now made her look dishonest. Committee Chair Richard Hale lifted the document and studied it again. Tessa Brooks, your application lists a 4.1 weighted average. That was my average, Tessa said. Ms. Cross released a quiet breath that sounded almost sympathetic. This is exactly the problem. She continues repeating numbers that do not match the school's certified record. A committee member near the window stopped writing. Tessa reached into her backpack. Ms. Cross's smile vanished. What are you doing? I brought the appeal file. The room changed by half a degree. Not enough to feel safe. Just enough for everyone to notice that Ms. Cross had not expected those words. Tessa placed a plain blue folder on the table. The corners were softened from being carried across 2 buses and through a night of waiting. Inside were the forms she had filed less than an hour before the scholarship deadline. Ms. Cross put one hand over the folder. This committee is not required to entertain last-minute accusations from a disappointed student. It isn't an accusation, Tessa said. It's a request for review. Your request was denied at the school level. You denied it. A chair scraped against the floor. The teacher's hand remained on the file, but the confidence in her face had begun to tighten. Richard Hale leaned forward. What exactly are you asking us to review? Tessa could hear the wall clock above the door. Each second moved the scholarship decisions closer to publication. She thought of her 12-year-old brother waiting at their apartment with the old laptop open, refreshing the scholarship page because he believed her name would appear there. He believed every night she had worked mattered. He believed adults could not simply erase what a person had earned. Tessa slid the blue folder out from beneath Ms. Cross's palm. I'm requesting the grade change audit. For 1 second, Ms. Cross said nothing. Then she laughed. It was a small sound, but it carried across the entire room. You think an audit will rescue you? Tessa met her eyes. I think it will show who changed my grades. A committee member lowered his phone. Another reached for the gold transcript. Near the wall, one administrator suddenly became interested in the floor. Ms. Cross moved around the table until she stood directly beside Tessa. Her voice dropped, but not enough. You should be careful. There are consequences for attacking a teacher's integrity. Tessa's face remained calm. There are consequences for changing a student's record, too. The smile disappeared completely. Ms. Cross took the gold transcript, folded it once, and pushed it back against Tessa's chest. Go wait outside. Students with valid applications will be reviewed first. A staff member opened the conference room door. Tessa was guided into the school office while the committee watched. Her chair was given to another applicant. The glass door closed between her and the people deciding whether she would ever afford college. On the other side, Ms. Cross returned to her seat as though the matter had ended. But she did not know that the appeal had already triggered a protected review. She did not know that every grade alteration carried a timestamp. And she did not know that, before the scholarship decisions posted that night, the gold transcript she had tried to bury would cost her far more than her place at that table. To understand why a respected teacher would risk her career to destroy one 17-year-old girl's future. We have to go back 3 weeks before the committee room, before the altered grades, and before Tessa discovered that the hardest work of her life had been handed to someone else. 3 weeks earlier, Tessa Brooks woke at 5:42 in the afternoon to the sound of a basketball striking the brick wall outside her bedroom. Her room was barely wider than the mattress. A second-hand desk stood beneath the window, crowded with college brochures, overdue utility notices, and a gold folder stamped with the crest of Franklin Preparatory Academy. Inside that folder was the transcript she had spent 4 years building. Every A represented something no teacher had seen. It represented essays written during breaks at the 24-hour pharmacy where Tessa worked 5 nights a week. It represented chemistry notes reviewed on the late bus and history chapters read beside a washing machine while waiting for her uniform to dry. It represented mornings when she slept for 3 hours and still arrived before the first bell. Across the hall, her 12-year-old brother Micah sat at the kitchen table doing fractions from a workbook held together with clear tape. "You're awake," he said. "I saved you cereal." The bowl beside him had gone soft an hour earlier. Tessa ate it anyway. Their mother had died 2 years before, and their father had disappeared from daily life long before that. An aunt in West Philadelphia signed the necessary school forms and checked on them twice a week, but most evenings belonged to Tessa and Micah. She made sure the rent envelope was filled. She checked his homework. She left prepared food in the refrigerator before taking the Route 47 bus downtown for work. Micah watched her open the gold folder. "Is that the one they send to the scholarship people after Ms. Cross signs it? You already have the grades. The school still has to certify them." Micah pushed his workbook aside. "Then you're getting it." Tessa smiled, though certainty had become an expensive thing in their apartment. The scholarship would cover tuition, housing, and books at several Pennsylvania universities. Without it, college would remain a collection of acceptance letters she could not afford to use. The application portal closed in 22 days. Scholarship decisions would be posted the same night. Tessa lifted the transcript from its folder. Her weighted average appeared near the top 4.1. Beneath it were the advanced courses she had taken while working more hours than most adults around her knew. Micah traced the embossed border without touching the paper. "It looks like money. It's worth more than money." "What's it worth?" "A way out." She immediately regretted the answer. Micah's face tightened. Out of here, out of choosing between rent and school. She closed the folder and tapped his math page. "And I'm taking you with me eventually, so finish number 6. At Franklin Preparatory the next morning, the halls smelled of floor wax and wet coats. Portraits of donors lined the main corridor, each brass nameplate polished brighter than the student lockers below them. Tessa carried the folder to room 214 before first period. Ms. Helen Cross was arranging recommendation packets on her desk. She taught advanced literature, chaired the honors review panel, and had spent 15 years building the kind of reputation people rarely questioned. Parents praised her standards. Administrators praised her discipline. Students learned to praise her if they wanted recommendation letters. Tessa placed the folder beside her keyboard. "My scholarship transcript needs certification." Miss Cross did not reach for it. "Leave it in the tray. The guidance office said you had to verify my advanced credits." "I heard you." Tessa placed it in the wooden tray marked Priority. Beneath her folder sat only one other packet wrapped in cream paper and tied with a school-colored ribbon. The name on the label read Grant Mercer. Grant's father had donated the new science wing the previous spring. As Tessa moved toward the door, Miss Cross spoke again. "Your aunt is Denise Brooks, correct?" Tessa paused. "Yes." A smile touched the teacher's mouth, but carried no warmth. "She worked for the Mercer Foundation several years ago. For 6 months. She made serious accusations when she left." Tessa had heard fragments of the story. Her aunt had challenged unpaid wages and unsafe conditions at a foundation-funded youth center. The dispute had ended quietly with no public apology and no job for Denise. "That had nothing to do with me," Tessa said. "Institutional relationships are rarely that simple." Miss Cross finally lifted Tessa's folder. Her thumb covered the 4.1 printed through the thin paper. "I'll examine the record carefully." Tessa left with an uneasiness she could not name. During lunch, the scholarship portal sent an automated notice to her phone. School certification pending. That evening, Tessa reported for work at the pharmacy in a navy polo and shoes with worn soles. She stocked, cold medicine, cleaned spilled detergent from aisle 9, and helped an elderly customer compare insurance prices. At 1:13 in the morning during her break, she logged into the student system. Her grades were unchanged. At 1:14 the page refreshed. The leadership credit she had earned through peer tutoring vanished from the activities section. Tessa stared at the empty line. She refreshed again. The credit returned. For several seconds nothing else moved. Then a notification appeared near the top of the screen. Record accessed by faculty reviewer. Tessa took a screenshot before the message disappeared. When she arrived home after 3, Micah was asleep on the couch with a college brochure open across his chest. He had circled a photograph of a red brick dormitory and written 2 words beneath it. Tessa's room. She covered him with a blanket, then sat at the kitchen table and checked the portal again. Everything looked normal. The leadership credit was back. The 4.1 remained. Her advanced courses still carried the grades she had earned. Tessa almost convinced herself that the missing line had been a harmless technical error. Then she opened the gold folder. The transcript had been returned to her locker while she was at work. At first, she noticed only the certification signature at the bottom, Helen Cross. Then, Tessa saw a faint gray mark beside Advanced Chemistry, as though an eraser had been pressed against the paper before the final copy was printed. The grade still read A. But beneath the gold sheet tucked into the folder was a note in Ms. Cross's precise handwriting. Final records subject to faculty correction. Tessa read the sentence twice. She photographed the transcript, the signature, and the note. Then she placed them back in the folder and slid it beneath a stack of bills where Micah would not find it. The next morning, the scholarship portal changed again. Her school certification was no longer pending. It had been approved. For less than a second, relief moved through her. Then Tessa opened the certified record. The average at the top no longer read 4.1. It read 3.4. Tessa stood in the guidance office before the first bell, holding her phone beside the certified record. "This is wrong," she said. The counselor, Mrs. Lang, compared the screen with the grade summary on her computer. Her expression shifted, then settled into the careful neutrality adults used when they sensed trouble but did not want to own it. "The system shows the record was reviewed and approved by Ms. Cross. Faculty certification is standard. My average changed after certification." Mrs. Lang clicked through several tabs. Advanced Chemistry is listed as a C. Advanced Literature is a C+. Government is a B-. I earned A's in all 3. "Do you have copies of the final reports?" Tessa opened the gold folder and placed 3 report cards on the desk. Each carried the original grade's teacher initials and semester dates. Mrs. Lang studied them longer than necessary. "These are classroom reports," she said. "The transcript is the official record." How can the official record disagree with every report? A knock sounded against the open door. Ms. Cross entered carrying Grant Mercer's cream-colored scholarship packet. She wore the same composed expression she used at assemblies and donor receptions. In public, she spoke often about opportunity discipline and giving exceptional students a path forward. Mrs. Lang moved back from the keyboard. "Tessa has questions about her certified transcript." Ms. Cross placed Grant's packet on the counter with both hands, careful not to bend it. "I expected she might." Tessa held out the report cards. These grades were changed. Grades are reviewed before graduation. Reviewed is not the same as lowered. Ms. Cross's smile thinned. "Your classroom performance included inconsistencies." "Which inconsistencies?" "Late work, attendance concerns, questions about independent completion." Tessa felt heat rise beneath her collar. "I missed 2 mornings after Micah had the flu. Both were excused. I have never been accused of cheating." "No one used that word. You just implied it." Mrs. Lang's hand paused over the keyboard. Ms. Cross lowered her voice. "A mature student understands that challenging every unfavorable outcome only confirms concerns about temperament." The warning was polished enough to sound like advice. Tessa understood it anyway. Accept the lowered grades or risk being labeled difficult. Behind Ms. Cross, 2 students waited in the hallway for schedule changes. One glanced toward the office before quickly facing the lockers again. Tessa gathered her papers. "I want the record corrected. Then submit a written concern through the honors review process." "How long does that take?" "Ordinarily 10 school days. The scholarship deadline is in 19. Then I suggest you write clearly." By lunch, Tessa had completed the form. She attached copies of the report cards and the screenshot showing that a faculty reviewer had accessed her account. She delivered the packet to the honors office and asked the secretary to stamp her copy with the date and time. Ms. Cross appeared before the stamp came down. "That will not be necessary," she said. The secretary withdrew her hand. Tessa kept the form on the counter. "The policy says students receive proof of submission." Ms. Cross's gaze settled on her. "You have been spending too much time reading procedures instead of reflecting on why your record required correction." "I read procedures because the deadline matters." Several teachers were eating lunch in the adjoining workroom. Their conversation softened. Ms. Cross took the form and skimmed the first page. "You are accusing 3 faculty members of recording false grades. I'm asking why the final grades they gave me were replaced. No teacher has supported your claim. The report cards support it. Those documents may not reflect later review decisions." Tessa pointed to the signature lines. "Then show me the decisions." For a moment, the teacher's expression hardened. Then she placed the form in a wire basket beneath a stack of routine requests. "The panel will respond when it is able." Tessa reached for her copy. Ms. Cross did not release it. "I need the timestamp." "You need patience." The secretary watched the paper between them. Tessa spoke calmly. "Please stamp it." A chair shifted in the workroom. Ms. Cross finally let go. The secretary pressed the red stamp into the corner. Submitted 12:31 p.m. Tessa photographed the page before leaving. That afternoon, Grant Mercer found her outside the library. "I was not cruel." That almost made the situation harder. Grant wore a new school jacket and carried the kind of laptop Tessa had compared online before deciding the monthly payments were impossible. His father's name appeared on the science wing, the auditorium program, and the scholarship banquet invitation. "I heard you're appealing your transcript," he said. "People hear fast." Miss Cross said there was confusion. "What kind?" Grant shifted the laptop beneath his arm. "She said some students were reporting projected grades as final grades." "I wasn't. I'm not saying you were." He glanced toward the library doors. "My application changed too." Tessa waited. "My class rank moved up yesterday." "How far?" 3 places. Tessa's hand tightened around the folder. Grant had been directly behind her in the honors ranking. "Did your grades change?" "I didn't check everything." "Check." His face showed discomfort, then caution. "My dad told me not to get involved." That sentence told Tessa more than his answer would have. The next morning, the honors panel rejected her complaint. The response was 3 sentences long. It stated that her certified record reflected a comprehensive faculty review. It said no further school-level action was required. At the bottom was Helen Cross's signature. Tessa read it beside her locker while students moved around her. 10 school days had become less than 24 hours. She went back to Mrs. Lang. "Who was on the review panel?" The counselor hesitated. "Miss Cross chairs it." "Who else reviewed my complaint?" "I don't have access to the internal routing." "Then I appeal above the school." Mrs. Lang glanced at the closed office door. "There is a scholarship appeal procedure." "Where?" "It is usually used after a scholarship decision. The deadline comes before the decision." "I know." "Then how do I file it?" Mrs. Lang reached into a locked drawer and removed a single-page instruction sheet. At the top were the words "External Scholarship Record Dispute." Tessa read the final paragraph twice. A student could request a grade change audit if there was evidence that the electronic record no longer matched previously issued academic reports. The request had to be filed before the scholarship committee finalized its decisions. Tessa lifted her eyes. "Why didn't anyone give me this yesterday?" Mrs. Lang did not answer directly. "Because once you request the audit, the district records office becomes involved. And Ms. Cross can't deny it." "No." For the first time since the average changed, Tessa felt something stronger than fear. A path. Then, Mrs. Lang added, "You will need your original transcript, the school's rejection, and proof of every grade you dispute." Tessa opened the gold folder. The report cards were there. The stamped complaint was there. The rejection was there. The original gold transcript was not. She emptied the folder onto the desk. Nothing. Tessa remembered leaving it inside her locked locker before lunch. She returned to the hallway and opened the locker again. Books, work, uniform, Micah's folded college brochure. No transcript. On the inside shelf sat a yellow hall pass in Miss Cross's handwriting. "Report to room 218. When Tessa entered the classroom, the gold paper lay on the teacher's desk. Miss Cross rested one hand over it. You have until the end of today, she said, to withdraw your complaint before this becomes part of your permanent conduct record. Tessa stared at the transcript beneath her palm. The threat was no longer hidden inside professional language. Ms. Cross believed Tessa needed the scholarship badly enough to accept anything. She was almost right. Tessa closed the classroom door behind her. Ms. Cross remained seated, one hand resting over the gold transcript and the other beside a blank withdrawal form. Sign this, she said, and I will recommend that the conduct concern go no further. Tessa read the first line. I acknowledge that my transcript dispute resulted from my own misunderstanding of faculty grading procedures. The words made her stomach tighten. This says the grades were my mistake. It says you misunderstood the process. They are not the same thing. Ms. Cross leaned back. Colleges do not admire students who turn routine corrections into accusations. Tessa kept her voice even. Neither do scholarship committees. Something cold moved across the teacher's face. You have convinced yourself that effort makes you exceptional. No, my grades did. Ms. Cross pushed the pen toward her. Your aunt made the same mistake. She believed rules protected people who embarrassed the wrong families. There it was. The old dispute. The name Mercer. The warning hidden beneath every polite sentence. Tessa glanced at the transcript. Did you change my grades because of my aunt? Ms. Cross gave a quiet laugh. Be very careful what you say next. You brought her up. I brought up a pattern of poor judgment. And Grant's rank moved above mine the same day my grades dropped. The teacher rose. For several seconds, the only sound was the ventilation fan above the windows. You are 17 years old, Ms. Cross said. You work nights. You miss meetings. You come to school exhausted. Yet you expect this institution to certify that you performed at the same level as students with stronger support and cleaner records. My work schedule is not an academic grade. It affects reliability. Then why was every final report an A? Ms. Cross's voice sharpened. Because classroom teachers see fragments. I see the complete student. Tessa understood what she was being offered. Not an explanation. A definition of power. The person who controlled the final record could decide which parts of her life counted as evidence against her. She slid the withdrawal form back across the desk. I'm not signing it. Ms. Cross picked up the gold transcript. Then, this remains in dispute and disputed records are not released to external committees. You already released the altered one. I certified the official version. Tessa reached for the paper. Ms. Cross pulled it out of reach. This belongs to the school. It has my name on it. It is school property. Tessa opened her phone and photographed the transcript where it lay in the teacher's hand. Ms. Cross slapped it face down against the desk. Leave. Tessa did not move. I want my original copy. You are no longer in a position to demand anything. I'm requesting it for the external appeal. For the first time, the teacher's control slipped visibly. Mrs. Lang had no authority to give you that procedure. She gave me a district form, and I will be discussing that with her. Tessa felt fear then, but it was not fear for herself. Mrs. Lang had opened one drawer and handed over one page. Ms. Cross could punish her for even that. Tessa lowered the phone. Keep the transcript. The teacher's expression eased by a fraction. Then Tessa added, I already photographed every page before certification. She left without waiting for a response. At lunch, she found Mrs. Lang packing files into a cardboard box. What happened? Tessa asked. I've been reassigned to testing support until the end of the semester. Because you gave me the appeal instructions. Mrs. Lang folded the box flaps inward. No one said that. But that is why. The counselor glanced toward the hallway. Do not withdraw your request. Tessa placed her phone on the desk and showed her the photographed report cards, the signed gold transcript, the faculty access notice, and the stamped complaint. Is that enough? It may be enough to open the audit. Maybe you need evidence the record changed after the reports were issued. A photograph helps, but the district may say certification replaced the earlier version properly. What proves it was not proper? The electronic history. The audit. Mrs. Lang nodded. Tessa opened the external appeal page. The form required 4 attachments and a written statement. It also required the original transcript or an explanation of why it was unavailable. Scholarship decisions would post in 34 hours. Her shift began in 40 minutes. She called the pharmacy. Her supervisor answered over the sound of a delivery cart. I need tonight off. You already missed last Thursday. My brother was sick, and I covered you. I cannot cover you again. Tessa stared at the application deadline on her screen. Missing the shift could mean losing the job. Losing the job could mean missing rent. Missing the filing deadline could mean losing everything the job had been helping her build toward. "I'll come in late," she said. 2 hours. 1 hour. "I need 2. A pause followed. "Then do not come in tomorrow." The call ended. Tessa sat alone in the emptied guidance office. For a moment, Ms. Cross's offer seemed almost reasonable. Sign the withdrawal. Keep the job. Stop fighting an institution that had already decided which version of her was official. Then her phone buzzed. Micah had sent a photograph of the refrigerator. Their mother's old magnet held a handwritten list beneath it. Tessa college things. 1. Scholarship. 2. Dorm room. 3. Bring the blue blanket. 4. Do not forget me. Tessa read the 4th line until the letters blurred. She opened the appeal form. In the statement box she wrote only facts. Her original final grades. The date Miss Cross certified the record. The time the average changed. The rejection signed by the same person whose actions she was disputing. She attached the photographs and the stamped complaint. For the missing original, she explained that Miss Cross had taken possession of it and refused to return it. At the bottom, one box remained. Request District Grade Change Audit. Tessa selected it. The system asked her to confirm that false statements could result in disciplinary action. She pressed Submit. A red warning appeared. 1. Required attachment cannot be verified. The photograph of the gold transcript was too dark for the embossed seal to register. Tessa enlarged it. The grades were readable, but the signature blurred into shadow. She needed another copy. She returned to room 214 after classes ended. The door was locked. Through the narrow window, she could see the gold transcript on Ms. Cross's desk beneath Grant Mercer's scholarship packet. Tessa tried the office. Empty. The building secretary had already begun turning off lights. "You need to leave," she called. "I forgot a document." "Tomorrow." "The deadline is tonight." The secretary shook her head. "I cannot unlock a teacher's room." Tessa stood in the darkening corridor as the practical weight of the problem settled over her. Without the original, the appeal might fail verification. Without the appeal, the audit would never begin. She called Grant. He answered after the 4th ring. "What do you need?" "Check your transcript." "I did. And my literature grade changed." Tessa pressed the phone closer. "Down. No. Up." "How much?" "From a B+ to an A." A custodian's cart rattled at the far end of the hall. "Did Miss Cross teach that class?" "Yes." "Will you put that in writing?" Grant said nothing. "Your rank moved because my grades went down and yours went up." "I did not ask her to do that." "Then help me prove it." "My father will lose his mind. My brother and I could lose our future. That is not fair." "No, it isn't." Another pause. Then Grant whispered there was a paper on her desk yesterday. A grade change screen. "I saw both our names." Tessa's heart struck once against her ribs. "Did you photograph it?" "No." "Will you tell the committee?" "I don't know." The uncertainty in his voice nearly broke the fragile shape of her hope. Then he said, "But the system emailed me when my grade changed. It has the exact time." Tessa opened her appeal again. The missing transcript was still a problem. Grant's email might support the pattern, but it would not prove what her original record had shown. She checked the time. 48 minutes remained before the external filing window closed. Then she remembered the pharmacy copier. 3 months earlier, when the scholarship application first opened, she had copied the gold transcript during her break because Micah wanted one to keep. That copy was not in her apartment. It was inside the employee locker, where she stored college forms before carrying them home. Tessa ran for the stairs. She reached the pharmacy with 12 minutes left. Her supervisor watched her hurry past the registers. "You are not scheduled anymore." "I know." Tessa opened the locker. Beneath a spare uniform and a package of crackers was a white envelope marked in Micah's uneven handwriting. "College proof, do not bend." Inside was the copy. The original 4.1 average was clear. Every A remained intact. At the bottom, before Ms. Cross's certification, the transcript carried the registrar's date stamp. Tessa scanned it, uploaded it, and pressed Submit again. This time the screen changed. Appeal file accepted. Grade change audit requested. She let out one breath. Then a second message appeared beneath it. School official notified. Across Philadelphia, Helen Cross's phone lit up with the same notice. and for the first time, the teacher could no longer control who was allowed to examine the record. The next morning, Tessa arrived at Franklin Preparatory to find her student account locked. A red banner covered the login page. Access suspended pending conduct review. Her class schedule had vanished. The scholarship portal still showed her appeal as active, but she could no longer open the documents she had submitted. At 7:18, the principal's secretary called her to the main office. Miss Cross was already there. She sat beside Principal Daniel Reeves with the gold transcript in a clear evidence sleeve. The blue appeal folder rested on his desk unopened. Principal Reeves gestured toward the chair across from him. Tessa, Ms. Cross reports that you photographed confidential school records without authorization and submitted incomplete information to an outside committee. They were my records. That is not the issue. It is the entire issue. Ms. Cross folded her hands. This response is precisely why I recommended suspension from honors activities. Tessa faced the principal. Did you request the grade change audit? The district received the request. Did you review the original report cards? We are reviewing your conduct first. The order of those words told her what the school intended to do. Investigate the student before examining the grades. Principal Reeves slid a form across the desk. It stated that Tessa would be removed from the evening scholarship meeting unless she agreed not to discuss allegations against staff members. You may attend as an applicant, he said. You may not disrupt the committee's work. My appeal is part of its work. The committee will determine that. Ms. Cross added, assuming the appeal is still considered valid. Tessa read the form but did not touch the pen. If I sign this, can I present my file? You may answer questions directed to you, Principal Reeves said. That is not what I asked. His patience thinned. You are not in a position to dictate procedure. Tessa pushed the form back. Then I won't sign it. Miss Cross's gaze hardened with satisfaction. Principal Reeves removed Tessa's honors pin from the file beside him and placed it in a small envelope. Until the conduct review is complete, your honors privileges are suspended. It was a symbolic punishment. The pin had no academic value, no effect on the appeal, and no power to alter her grades. Yet Tessa felt its loss more sharply than she expected. She had earned it during sophomore year when her mother was still alive. Her mother had fastened it to Tessa's sweater before the awards ceremony and told Micah that the tiny gold torch meant his sister had refused to let exhaustion decide who she became. Now the school sealed it away as though Tessa had stolen it. Miss Cross watched her face. You may collect it if your conduct is cleared. Tessa rose. My conduct did not change those grades. No, Ms. Cross replied. But it may explain why they required review. By midday, the story had spread through the school. Not the grade changes. Not the audit. Students heard that Tessa had falsified scholarship materials and accused a teacher when the numbers did not support her application. In the cafeteria, conversations stopped when she passed. A girl from her literature class removed a backpack from the empty seat beside her. Grant Mercer found Tessa near the stairwell. My father spoke to Ms. Cross, he said. And he says I misunderstood the email. Did your grade rise? Yes. Then you did not misunderstand. Grant rubbed one hand over his face. He says corrections happen all the time. 3 grades dropped on my record while yours increased. I know. Will you bring the email tonight? His eyes moved toward the security camera above the stairs. My father told me the Scholarship Foundation could withdraw both applications if this becomes a scandal. It already is a scandal. He said your aunt tried to damage the foundation before. Tessa felt the accusation settle between them. So that is what they told you. I don't believe everything he said, but you believe enough to stay quiet. Grant had no answer. At 4 that afternoon, Micah called from their apartment. There are people outside. Tessa stopped walking. What people? A man from the school and a lady. They asked Aunt Denise if you live here. Do not open the door. I didn't. Where is Aunt Denise? Talking to them in the hall. Tessa heard voices through the phone, then her aunt took it. The district sent an attendance officer, Denise said. They claim your work schedule may violate student eligibility rules. Tessa gripped the railing beside her. My attendance is above the requirement. I showed them the records. Why are they doing this? Denise lowered her voice. Because someone wants you too frightened to go tonight. Micah came back onto the call. Are they taking your scholarship? No. The lie left Tessa before she could stop it. Then why are they here? She closed her eyes for 1 second. They're checking paperwork. Did you do something wrong? No, Micah. Promise. I promise. His next words came quietly. Then do not let them make you say you did. At 6:30, the scholarship committee assembled in the conference room adjoining the school office. Decisions were scheduled to post at 9. Tessa arrived carrying the blue appeal folder and wearing a plain gray sweater where the honors pin had once been. Ms. Cross stood near the entrance greeting committee members by name. Principal Reeves remained beside her. Grant and 4 other finalists waited with their families near the wall. Tessa came alone. Her aunt had stayed with Micah in case the district returned. Richard Hale, the committee chair, checked the applicant list. Ms. Brooks, your school informed us that your participation was under review. My scholarship appeal was accepted before the deadline. Ms. Cross reached for the folder. The school has already determined that her complaint lacks merit. Tessa kept hold of it. The school review was signed by the person whose changes I disputed. Several committee members heard that. Ms. Cross lowered her voice. You were instructed not to repeat defamatory claims. I did not sign that instruction. Principal Reeves moved between them. This is not the place. The scholarship decisions post tonight, Tessa said. There is no other place left. A committee assistant opened the conference room door. Grant and the other finalists were invited inside first. When Tessa approached, Ms. Cross blocked her path. Then came the moment that would remain in every witness's memory. Ms. Cross snatched the gold transcript from Tessa's folder, held it before the committee, and announced that students from her neighborhood did not belong in the honors race merely because they had learned how to demand exceptions. The insult traveled through the room. Tessa was pushed to the back while another applicant took the final chair. Her transcript landed on the rejection pile. For a few seconds, the humiliation looked complete. Then Ms. Cross made it worse. She lifted Tessa's original report cards and addressed the committee. These documents were produced before comprehensive review. Ms. Brooks is presenting them as final because she believes hardship should exempt her from the same standards applied to everyone else. Tessa could feel every face in the room measuring her clothes, her tired eyes, and the empty space where a parent should have been sitting. Ms. Cross continued. She has also concealed the fact that she works late hours in violation of the expectations placed on scholarship candidates. My job is not concealed, Tessa said. It is listed on my application. You listed employment. You did not explain how often it interfered with school. It did not change my grades. Your teachers disagree. Then ask them. Ms. Cross paused. The literature and government teachers were not present. Neither had signed the altered transcript. Tessa noticed the omission, and from the slight tightening around Ms. Cross's mouth, she knew the teacher noticed it too. Richard Hale raised a hand. We will hear the appeal. Ms. Cross placed her palm over the blue folder. There is nothing in this file that the school has not already rejected. Tessa pulled it free. There is something the school never reviewed. She opened the folder and placed the original transcript copy on the table. The 4.1 average faced upward. Ms. Cross responded quickly. A photocopy without secure verification proves nothing. Then release the audit. The audit request is procedurally defective. A committee member named Elaine Porter leaned forward. On what basis? The student failed to provide an authenticated original. Tessa pointed to the gold transcript on the rejection pile. The original is right there. Ms. Cross's hand froze. For the first time that evening, her own action had trapped her. Richard Hale lifted the gold sheet and compared it with the copy. Same registrar date, same courses, different grades. Ms. Cross began explaining certification authority, but the committee was no longer listening only to her. A notification sounded from the laptop beside Elaine Porter. Then another sounded on Richard Hale's tablet. The appeal system had updated. Elaine opened the notice. Her eyes moved across the screen before settling on Tessa. The district records office has completed the preliminary preservation request. Ms. Cross's face lost its practiced calm. Principal Reeves stepped closer. Completed what? Elaine read the next line silently. A new attachment had entered the scholarship appeal file. It contained the first page of the grade change audit. Beside Tessa's name were 3 alterations each made from the same faculty account after midnight. And beneath them was a 4th entry. Grant Mercer's literature grade had been raised 7 minutes later. Ms. Cross recovered before anyone else spoke. A preliminary entry is not a finding, she said. Faculty accounts are used for routine corrections every semester. Elaine Porter rotated the laptop toward the committee. Were these routine corrections? I would need to examine the full record. How you made them, Tessa said. Ms. Cross's eyes cut toward her. That account is assigned to the honors department. More than one administrator may have access. Principal Reeves shifted beside the wall. No, he said. The single word changed the room. Miss Cross faced him. Reeves continued more carefully. The account is issued to the honors chair. Temporary access requires a written authorization from my office. Then someone used my credentials. Richard Hale, read from the audit page. The access originated from a school-issued laptop assigned to Helen Cross. Ms. Cross reached for the computer. Elaine pulled it back. This is incomplete information, the teacher said. It shows only that corrections were entered. It does not show that they were improper. Tessa opened the blue appeal folder. The first page was not the audit. It was her statement, her night shifts, her original grades, the missing leadership credit, the rejected school complaint, the refusal to return the original transcript. Every claim had been written before the district released a single audit entry. Tessa slid the file across the table. I submitted this before I knew whose account would appear. Richard Hale, read the submission time aloud. 8:48 last night. Elaine checked the audit notice. The district preservation request began at 9:16. Tessa's account could not have been shaped around evidence that did not yet exist. Ms. Cross dismissed it with a flick of her hand. She made assumptions and happened to be correct about an access time. That does not establish motive. No, Tessa said, but Grant's email may. Grant remained seated beside his father. Mr. Mercer placed one hand on his son's shoulder. This meeting concerns Miss Brooks's application. Tessa faced to Grant. You told me your literature grade changed. Mr. Mercer's grip tightened. Grant stared at the table. Ms. Cross spoke before he could answer. A student should not be pressured into participating in another applicant's complaint. Tessa did not raise her voice. I'm not asking him to defend me. I'm asking him to tell the truth about his own record. Every committee member now watched Grant. His father leaned close. You do not have to respond. Grant's breathing became shallow. Then he opened his laptop. I brought the email. Mr. Mercer's hand fell away. Grant found the message and passed the screen to Elaine. The automatic notice showed that his advanced literature grade had changed from B+ to A at 12:24 a.m. Tessa's literature grade had been lowered at 12:17, 7 minutes apart. Same faculty account, same school laptop, same night. Miss Cross's voice became sharper. Grant's work was reassessed after a portfolio review. Where is the portfolio decision? Elaine asked. It would be in the department records. Was a second teacher present? I do not recall. Who authorized the reassessment? I did. Grant swallowed. There was no portfolio review. Ms. Cross stared at him. He continued before his courage disappeared. She called me into her room the week before. She said my application needed a stronger academic profile. She asked whether my father would attend the scholarship banquet. Mr. Mercer rose halfway from his chair. Grant. His son flinched but kept speaking. She said the foundation had invested too much in the school for its candidate to be pushed out by someone whose family had attacked its reputation. No one needed Tessa to explain which family she meant. Richard Hale's pen stopped above the page. Miss Cross tried to interrupt. I was misremembering a conversation about institutional support. Grant opened another message. She sent me this afterward. The email contained only 2 sentences. Your position has been corrected. There is no need to discuss internal ranking adjustments. Elaine read it twice. Miss Cross's face tightened. That language refers to a ranking calculation. Then why did his grade change? Tessa asked. The teacher ignored her. Richard Hale opened the new audit attachment again. There are more pages loading. A progress bar moved across the screen. The committee waited. When the next page appeared, the preliminary record became a sequence. At 12:11 a.m. Tessa's advanced chemistry grade changed from A to C. At 12:17, her advanced literature grade changed from A to C+. At 12:19, her government grade changed from A to B-. At 12:22, her peer tutoring leadership credit was deleted. At 12:24, Grant's literature grade rose from B+ to A. At 12:27, his class rank moved above hers. At 12:31. The leadership credit reappeared on Tessa's student view, but remained excluded from the certified scholarship record. Ms. Cross had tried to hide the most visible alteration without restoring its value. Elaine read the final line. Manual certification completed by Helen Cross at 12:36 a.m. The room understood before Ms. Cross did. Her authority at the table had depended on everyone believing that the certified record was neutral. Now the certification itself was evidence. She rose abruptly. This audit has been taken out of context. Grade records are corrected for many reasons, and donor status had no bearing on my review. Tessa removed the original report cards from the appeal file. Then these teachers should have approved the changes. She placed the chemistry report first. Final grade A. Teacher signature Mr. Nolan. No amendment. The literature report followed. Final grade A. Teacher signature Ms. Avery. No amendment. Then government. Final grade A. Teacher signature Mr. Bell. No amendment. 3 original grades. 3 teachers. No supporting correction forms. Richard Hale faced to Principal Reeves. Did your office authorize any of this? No. Did you know the school-level appeal had been rejected by Ms. Cross alone? Reeves hesitated. I knew she chaired the panel. That was not the question. The principal's shoulders lowered. No, I did not know she had routed it without the other members. Ms. Cross pointed toward Tessa. You are allowing a student with an obvious personal grievance to turn administrative discretion into misconduct. Tessa stood. Her hands were steady now. My grievance is not personal. She touched the gold transcript on the table. It has my name on it. It contains work I completed. You changed that work after every teacher had signed it, then used your own changes to tell this committee I was dishonest. Miss Cross opened her mouth. Tessa continued. You warned me that there were consequences for attacking a teacher's integrity. Her voice remained measured. I did not attack it. I requested an audit. That was the line no one in the room could answer. Tessa had not broken into a system, stolen a file, or invented a witness. She had used the procedure the school hoped she would never find. Richard Hale closed the scholarship ranking sheet. No decisions will be posted until this matter is resolved. Miss Cross seized on the delay. Then, Miss Brooks has disrupted every finalist's award. No, Elaine said. You did. The teacher's face hardened. Mr. Mercer gathered his coat. This committee should be careful before making allegations that could damage the school's largest supporters. Richard Hale met his eyes. The scholarship is independent of your donations. For now. Grant stood beside his father but did not move toward the door. I'm withdrawing my application, he said. Mr. Mercer stared at him. You will do no such thing. My rank was changed. You did not ask for it, but I know about it now. Grant closed the laptop. I'm not accepting money with her grades underneath it. Tessa said nothing. This part belonged to him. Richard Hale instructed the committee assistant to preserve copies of the appeal file, the audit grant's email, and the original transcript. He contacted the district records director on speakerphone. The director confirmed that the full electronic history had been secured before anyone at the school could alter it. She also confirmed that only one authenticated user had entered the changes. Helen Cross. Principal Reeves asked Miss Cross to surrender her school laptop and identification badge. She did not move. You cannot remove me based on an incomplete review. I am placing you on administrative leave pending a formal hearing. I have served this school for 15 years, and the records will show what happened during those years. A security administrator entered the room. Miss Cross removed her badge slowly. The silver pin at her collar caught the light as she placed the badge on the table. She glanced at Tessa, still searching for the frightened student who had stood in room 214 beside the withdrawal form. That student was gone, not replaced by someone louder, replaced by someone who had kept every copy. Before Miss Cross was escorted out, she made one final attempt. You think this guarantees your future? Tessa held the gold transcript flat between both hands. No. She paused. It only gives me back the future I earned. By 8:43, the district restored her 3 grades, her leadership credit, and her 4.1 average. At 8:51, the scholarship committee reopened its ranking session. At 8:57, 2 minutes before the decisions were scheduled to post, Richard Hale called Tessa back to the table. The gold transcript now matched the grade change audit. The appeal file lay beside it. One showed what she had earned. The other showed what she had done when someone tried to erase it. Richard Hale placed the corrected decision in front of her. The committee has voted unanimously to restore your eligibility and award you the full scholarship. Tessa read the first line. Her name was there. She did not cry until she called Micah. He answered before the first ring had finished. Did it post? Tessa pressed the phone against her ear. Yes. A breath caught on the other end. Your room. She watched the committee stamp the corrected transcript. My room, she said. And the blue blanket. A quiet laugh escaped her. The blue blanket, too. Behind her, the district director sealed Helen Cross's laptop inside an evidence case. The teacher had tried to decide which student belonged in the honors race. By the end of the night, the record had answered for her. The district opened a formal investigation before midnight. Helen Cross remained on administrative leave, while outside counsel reviewed the grade system scholarship certifications and every record she had approved during the previous 3 years. Principal Reeves sent a notice to the school community the next morning. It did not call the alterations a misunderstanding. It stated that a student's academic record had been changed without authorization, that all affected transcripts would be independently reviewed, and that retaliation against any student or employee cooperating with the investigation would result in disciplinary action. Mrs. Lang returned to the guidance office that afternoon. Her cardboard box was still beside the desk. Tessa found her replacing folders in the locked drawer. "I heard the scholarship was restored," Mrs. Lang said. Tessa nodded. They corrected everything. The counselor released a breath she seemed to have been holding since the day she handed over the appeal instructions. "You did what most adults would have been afraid to do. I almost signed the withdrawal, but you didn't." Tessa glanced at the drawer containing the external appeal forms. "Will students know those are there now?" "They will." Mrs. Lang placed a stack of copies in a clear holder outside her office where no one needed permission to find them. The district also changed the honors review procedure. No single teacher could certify a disputed transcript or reject an appeal involving their own actions. Every grade alteration required approval from the original classroom teacher and a second administrator. Students would receive an automatic copy whenever their permanent records changed. The rules had always claimed to protect students. Now they were written, so someone actually had to follow them. Grant Mercer withdrew from the scholarship competition despite his father's objections. His original B+ was restored along with his previous class rank. He stopped Tessa outside the library 2 days later. "I should have spoken sooner," he said. "Yes." He accepted the answer without defending himself. "My father says you ruined his relationship with the school." "I did not use his account." Grant lowered his eyes. "I know." After a moment, he added, "I sent the committee every message Miss Cross gave me. That was the right thing. It does not make the first part right." "No," Tessa said, "but it makes the next part better." They did not become friends. They simply stopped pretending that silence was neutral. A week later, the district hearing confirmed that Helen Cross had used her faculty access to alter Tessa's record and strengthen Grant's application. Investigators found no academic basis for any of the changes. Her employment was terminated after the hearing. The state certification board suspended her teaching license pending its own review, and the school began contacting former students whose scholarship rankings she had controlled. No officers dragged her from the building. No crowd waited outside to cheer. Her consequence arrived through passwords disabled hearings, scheduled records reopened, and a career she had treated as untouchable becoming subject to the same scrutiny she had used against others. Tessa returned to the pharmacy after her former supervisor called. He offered her the shifts she had lost. She accepted 2 nights a week instead of 5. The scholarship included housing, meals, books, and a small living allowance. For the first time in 2 years, she could reduce her hours without calculating which bill would remain unpaid. On the first evening she stayed home, Micah kept checking the clock. "You're not going to work." "Not tonight." "Are you sick?" "No." "Did they fire you again?" Tessa laughed. "No." He watched her place 2 plates on the kitchen table. "So this is because of the scholarship. This is because we have room to breathe." Micah sat down slowly as if sudden good news required caution. After dinner, he brought out the college brochure with the red brick dormitory. The words Tessa's room were still written beneath the photograph. "You promised the blue blanket," he reminded her. "I remember. And you have to call me. Every day. Every day at first." She held out her hand. "Deal." He shook it with complete seriousness. Near the end of the semester, Franklin Preparatory held a small ceremony for graduating scholarship recipients. Tessa almost refused to attend. She did not want applause from people who had watched her humiliation and remained quiet. She did not need the school to turn her resistance into proof that the institution had worked properly. Mrs. Lang asked her to come for one reason. Micah wanted to see her receive the corrected transcript. He sat in the front row beside Aunt Denise wearing a borrowed tie that reached halfway down his shirt. Principal Reeves called Tessa's name. This time, no one pushed her to the back. He handed her the gold transcript with both hands. The paper had been reprinted, sealed, and verified by the district records office. The 4.1 average appeared at the top. Every advanced course carried the correct grade. Her leadership credit had been restored. Beside the transcript was the honors pin that had been taken during the conduct review. Tessa held it for a moment, remembering her mother fastening it to her sweater years earlier. Then she crossed the stage and placed it in Micah's palm. "This belongs to you now," she said. His eyes widened. "I didn't earn it. You reminded me not to say I did something wrong. That was just the truth. Sometimes the truth needs someone to keep holding it." Micah closed his fingers around the tiny gold torch. After the ceremony, Tessa did not frame the corrected transcript. She placed it inside the blue appeal folder. The gold paper showed the achievement. The worn folder showed the choice that protected it. On the morning she left for college, Micah carried the blue blanket down the apartment stairs, while Tessa held the folder beneath her arm. Rain had washed the Philadelphia sidewalks clean, and the first sunlight reflected from the windows across the street, before getting into Aunt Denise's car. Tessa glanced up at the apartment where she had studied after night shifts and counted dollars beside overdue bills. Nothing about those years had become easier in memory, but they had not been erased. Micah climbed into the back seat and carefully pinned the gold torch to his backpack. Tessa sat beside him. As the car pulled away, he touched the pin once, then leaned against her shoulder. Helen Cross had believed authority meant deciding whose work mattered. Tessa proved that real authority could begin with something quieter, keeping the evidence, meeting the deadline, and refusing to sign away the truth. When a person in power rewrites someone else's future, should staying silent ever be considered neutral? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories about ordinary people who found the courage to protect what they had earned.